Excuse me, Mr. DJ.
Hey, check this out. We got a great show coming your way.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, the #1 sports information program in America, the Breakfast Bankroll, with your host, the sports broker, Jeff Dawson.
Good morning, sports fans from all around the globe. I am your host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and this is your Breakfast Bankroll for Friday, January 13th, 2023. It's Super Wildcard Weekend. I guess that's what they're calling it this year. And when you have an opportunity to get a legend on the mic into your studios, you clear the desk. You make damn sure that it becomes available. And whenever I am able to connect with a good friend and colleague, as you can see, I'm all smiles. I'm blessed and honored to have the one and only Mr. Bernie Fratto in our studios today to talk a little Jim Harbaugh and then get you into Super Wildcard Weekend with some leans, futures, props, whatever we're going to go. But without further ado, let's bring in the legend himself, the one and only Mr. Bernie Fratto.
Jeff, good to be with you. How are you, man?
I am doing great. We've had monsoons here in Cape Cod. I used Noah's Ark to get to the studio, but I'm here.
Yeah, nicely done. It's funny out here in Las Vegas, they think they have winter. I think our wind chill today is going to be like 51. That'd be good golfing weather in April, as far as I'm concerned.
We're talking Jim Harbaugh. We're talking last year, Final Four, lose the first game. Great season. Talks of him coming to the NFL. I don't know if that's agent talk or if that's him just getting a new contract, which he did. This year, an amazing season, undefeated, upset by TCU. They were supposed to get to the finals against Georgia, Ohio State, and they lose to the TCU team. Now, rumor has it even more. He's heading to the NFL. I'm here to ask you, what's the truth behind all this?
Well, here's the truth. And if we're going to tell the whole story, it goes back 9 years when Jim Harbaugh lost to his brother in the Super Bowl. Actually, that's been 10 years, but he had a battle with Trent Baalke while coaching. The 49ers wanted to be paid like a Super Bowl coach. They said, win a Super Bowl. Well, a fight ensued. One thing led to another. And in December 2014, Harbaugh went back to his alma mater, Michigan. It is, having lived in that market, having covered that team, having maintained all of my moles, which I talk to on an almost daily basis, the one thing that Harbaugh covets more than anything is winning a Super Bowl. People don't realize that. Harbaugh has always said that winning a Super Bowl is the most coveted prize in sports. Now, you can't win one in Ann Arbor, can you? So let's go back to last year when he had the interview with the Vikings. The Vikings had zero interest. That was a token interview, and Harbaugh went back to Michigan, and they, after cutting his pay in half the year before, they restored it, and he got a new 5-year deal, $36 million, 36.7. Now, let's remember that the buyout is almost nothing. It's $3 million if he were to leave this year. Compare that to Jimbo Fisher, and then on a graduating scale, it shrinks every year for the next 4 years. Now let's go back to November when Jim Irsay fired Frank Reich. I've always said that Jim Irsay, just wait, he will pursue Jim Harbaugh pretty vigorously here. Now why? Well, they have a history going back to the 80s. Jim Harbaugh was a quarterback for the Colts for 4 years. Jim Irsay loved him, called him Captain Comeback. He also is in the Ring of Honor at Lucas Oil Field there. And in 2017, when Chuck Pagano was fired, there was a straw poll, and 81% of the people wanted Jim Harbaugh. Fast forward, season ends. I give top credit to TCU. I thought they pushed Michigan around. Michigan 2 for 15 on third down. Yeah, 2 pick sixes. That's because TCU was faster and more athletic. No one wants to admit that, but that's a conversation for a different day. But Harbaugh's had a couple of good years in Michigan. 2 Big Ten titles, beat Ohio State back-to-back, and his stock is higher than ever. So we knew it was just a matter of time as we get to this point now. Carolina came calling. Harbaugh admits he talked to David Tepper. Just this past Monday, he had a 2-hour Zoom call with the Denver Broncos, and Harbaugh's basically said he'll talk to any NFL team. I still believe Jim Irsay will tender the biggest offer. It's the best fit, I think, based on the relationship. I mean, Harbaugh doesn't have a relationship with the Walton family and who now owns the Broncos, et cetera, et cetera. But let's cut to the chase. So here's what I learned in the last 24 hours. Michigan's new president, Santa Ono, that's his name, Santa. He loves Jim Harbaugh, loves him some Jim Harbaugh. And he reached out to the athletic director, Ward Manuel, and says, let's give him a new extension. So they drew up a new extension, and it's like, I believe it's like $9.5 million a year with incentives to get him to $12 or $13 million a year. And Harbaugh was this close to signing it, but he hasn't signed it. He didn't sign it yet. So part of this is Harbaugh likes the attention. Part of it is Harbaugh got the possession arrow now. He's still a little angry when they chopped up his contract a couple years ago after the COVID year and things were looking ugly. So what's the moral of the story here? I think it's about 50-50 whether or not Harbaugh leaves. I know he wants to win a Super Bowl, but he's torn. He thinks this coming year is his best team ever. He's got everybody back. Blake Corum's coming back. J.J. McCarthy is back, obviously. And he believes it's his best chance to win a national championship. Now, having said all that, you don't never know what Jim Harbaugh is going to do. I know he wants to go back to the NFL. Whether or not it's this year will remain to be seen. We know he's going to get an offer. And as far as what the final decision is, I don't think anybody really knows. And I don't think we're going to know probably for at least another 2 or 3 weeks minimum. Now, having said all that, I also found out last night that in private conversations, it looks like, based on moles I trust, it's about 60-40 that Harbaugh will actually stay in Michigan. But again, this has to play itself out in terms of the offers he gets, the monetary offers, as far as control, his staff, and all those things have to be spelled out before any final decisions are made. But it's very real. This whole Harbaugh thing, and I hear people, national hosts, talk, well, he's trying to leverage for a new contract. That's not true. No, come on. He lives next door to his dad in Ann Arbor. He's on a second marriage with a little. He's got plenty of money, and I know you never count anybody else's money, but that's not his motivating factor here. He wants to win a Super Bowl. You can't win one in Ann Arbor.
Bernie, is it fair? I'm going to say this statement that Michigan isn't a football school in regards to the SEC, and the reason I'm saying it this way is what he has done the last couple of years. I mean, what was his problem? What did the naysayers say before the last 2 years? You can't beat Ohio State. You cannot be the head coach of Michigan and not beat Ohio State. So what he has done the last 2 years is not only beat Ohio State, which last year was even a bigger shocker. I mean, they were decimated with injuries. They were double-digit home favorites, and they rolled. And this year they came into Ohio State 9-point dogs. They knew winner is in the big dance, and they not only beat them, I swear Ohio State quit in the fourth quarter. Now I look at that and I say, wow, what he has done. He could leave there and say, hey, my job is done. Yes, I didn't win a national championship, but I got you to the dance the last 2 years. I've beaten Ohio State. Now I'm going to chase my Super Bowl, my dream. Is it fair, though, when you're looking at Michigan, you can't compare them to the elite, the Alabamas, the Georgias, and, teams like that?
Well, I don't think you can, and that's been proven on the field. Harbaugh's lost 6 straight bowl games to the Florida States, the Alabamas, the South Carolinas. It's right there in front of you, right? Got smacked by Georgia last year where they weren't competitive. And they were competitive against TCU, but TCU put up 51 on them, right? TCU beat 5, 6 ranked teams this year. And Michigan didn't do that, right? So, but the program is in the best shape it's been in since Lloyd Carr left. And even before Michigan had this most recent debacle of losing to Ohio State 8 in a row and, 10 out of 12, whatever, they'd beaten Ohio State 17 of the prior 29. So it's still very much, I think, the biggest rivalry in sports. And look, Harbaugh is not really a real X's and O's genius. His offenses are really basic to me. He's very good athletes and they scheme well. But he can't compete with the Georgias and Alabamas and maybe even the Clemsons. Certainly, he couldn't beat TCU, and so Michigan fans are going to have to own that. That's just the way it is. However, having lived in that market, it's a pride institution. They've been playing football longer than anybody. They have more wins than anybody between the winged helmet and their history. I used to joke in Michigan, the three men I admire most, the father, son, and Fielding Yost, because in Michigan, you can't say anything bad there or they will hang you, right? They're not objective about their football team, but that's okay. There's nothing like an experience at the Big House. So, irrespective of what Harbaugh has done there, and irrespective of these, allegations of buying a kid a hamburger and coaches on recruiting trips and stuff, that has nothing to do with whether Harbaugh stays or leaves. It's all going to come down to when the ultimate offer that's staring him in the face. He'll weigh it with the cost-benefit analysis, and he'll determine his chances of winning the Super Bowl, which he wants more than anything else. People just don't get that about him. And so there's still more data to be gathered here in the next 3 weeks.
I almost kind of compare it to Brian Kelly, where Brian Kelly in Notre Dame, he finally had enough and he says, damn it, I want those 5-star athletes. I want that speed. And he jumps over to LSU, and then the rest was history there. Going back to the NFL, Bernie, the team itself wants to keep Coach Wilkins in Carolina. Now, you talked about Denver. Obviously, the big name waiting to kind of see what happens is Sean Payton. Now, if Jim gets that offer that he can't refuse, you talking about the Colts. You said he talked to Denver. Is there a specific team that Bernie would put his hat on that said if Jim left, it would be?
I think it would be Indianapolis because they have a 36-year relationship. Jim Irsay loves him. Jim Irsay, he was paying Frank Reich $9 million. Belichick makes 12. I bet he'd give Harbaugh 12. He'd give him a long-term deal. But most importantly, I think he'd give him autonomy and control. Now, Irsay's a little bit of a control freak, but because of the history those two have, he's in the Ring of Honor. There's no history in Denver. 2 years ago, I would have said the Bears, but they didn't fire Matt Nagy. But the McCaskies love Harbaugh. Carolina, based on the fit and their defense, but they got to get a quarterback, right? Well, so does Indianapolis. No situation is going to be perfect, but I come back to, that people tell me, well, come on, you're not going to win a Super Bowl in Denver. You're not going to win. You don't know that. I mean, their defense last year through 10 games, if they had just averaged 19 points a game in regulation, they would have been 9-1. Having said that, I go back to my punchline. You can't win a Super Bowl in Ann Arbor. So no matter where he ends up, look what Doug Peterson's done in Jacksonville. Look what Cam Newton did in Carolina back in 2015. You can turn things around fairly quickly. And once you get into the dance, Indianapolis was a year ago now playing for a spot in the playoffs and spit the bit against Jacksonville in week 18. So there you have it. But that's my long-winded way of saying, to me, the fit that makes the most sense, all things considered, is Indianapolis.
And that Indianapolis was preseason division favorites to win the division. Some spots people really like them with a good potential to come out of not just the division, obviously, in the playoffs, but, have a good long run in the playoffs and potential AFC winners. And when we go back to Denver, I mean, you have Mr. Mahomes, you have Mr. Herbert. We don't know who's going to be quarterbacking with Mr. 702 and the Raiders. Russ looked better his last couple games, so that would be interesting there. Let's shift over to Super Wildcard Weekend. 6 games, Bernie. 2 on Saturday, 3 on Sunday, 1 on Monday. The 2 games on Saturday. San Fran is now 9.5 with a 42 against Seattle. The Chargers right now 2.5 with a 47.5 against the Jags. The Jags in September flew out to LA on stealth mode and absolutely boat raced them. So there's the 2 games on Saturday. What are you seeing on Saturday?
Yeah, real quickly, that was a 38-10 win when Jacksonville poleaxed the Chargers, and that was the game after, I'm pretty sure, that Justin Herbert's ribs were banged up, and he played hurt, and he really shouldn't have gone. The Jacksonville Chargers game is one game I'm going to leave alone. I'm not going to be involved in that game. From a bird's eye view, this is a very interesting weekend because all 6 games involve rematches. All of them. All these teams have played each other this year already. And in 3 situations, you've got divisional teams playing each other for the 3rd time. Cincinnati, Baltimore, San Francisco, Seattle, and Miami, Buffalo. Start with San Francisco. By the way, just blindly, in the last 6 years, underdogs on Wild Card Weekend are 16-7. So my eyes take me to the dog, but I'm being very discretionary. Start with San Francisco, Seattle. Tuesday, I grabbed the under of 43, and now we find out yesterday it's going to be storms and wind, so I'm happy with that. I got a good number, and it's going down. Brock Purdy and Geno Smith, just like we called it in August, right? Yeah, everybody saw that coming. That game is a very dangerous game. People think you just lay the 9.5 and go to sleep. Not so much. When divisional teams have to play each other again in the wild card round, the dog typically covers 58% of the time, and I think that's baked into the line here. 9.5 is a lot of points. Not that I want to grab it, but I'm certainly not laying it. So I'm on the under. I'm on the under in that game.
We're staying away from the Charger-Jaguars game. I looked at that game. I would lean Chargers late. I talked with Brady Tinker last night in Sportsbook Confessions, and I said 23-21 Jags and the kicker, from about 48 for the old 24-23 win. But I'm saying,
yeah, I got to tell you, I don't like Brandon Staley. No. That guy makes my teeth itch. Just looking at him walking up and down the sidelines. He wants to be the smartest guy on the road. You only got 49 guys. We got you idiot. What were Mike Williams and Nick Bosa doing on the field? What the hell is wrong with you? He's the smartest guy in the room. I mean, just ask him. I want nothing to do with him, especially laying points on the road. This Jacksonville team is very good. And by the way, so is Trevor Lawrence. And so that's a coin flip game, and you're giving the team that's hotter right now. What did I forget who Gene Cady at Purdue used to say? It's not who you play, it's when you play them. Jacksonville's very scary right now.
And don't forget,
but I want nothing to do with that game. There's better games on the board for me.
And don't forget, next year, Bernie, Jacksonville adds Calvin Ridley if he's reinstated, which we assume.
He'll be reinstated, the wide receiver. Yep, you can bet on
it. Sunday, Dolphins, Buffalo, 13.5 with a 43.5. Skylar Thompson will be behind center there. Giants and Vikings, I'm seeing 3 with a 48.5 there. Another rematch game there. And the last game, Baltimore and Cincinnati. It's funny when this game came out, 5.5 sixes. It was almost a placeholder. Was Lamar playing? Was he not playing? Then it was 7.5. Was Hundley playing? Is he not playing? It's stuck on 9.5 and 40.5.
Yeah. Let's start with the first game. The Vikings game is the second game, right?
Correct.
What's the first game again?
Miami and Buffalo.
Okay, so no way in hell I'm laying double digits anytime in the NFL, and I'm not laying it in a playoff game. I don't care if it's Skylar Thompson or Hunter S. Thompson, the quarterback. Football's played in 3 phases. That's a big number to hang in a playoff game. So just look, when the ball's in the air, who are the books going to need? They're going to need Miami, right? So if you put a gun to my head, I'd take Miami, but I'm not betting that game. You don't have to bet every game. Bankroll management's important. Having said that, I can't really see a path to victory for Miami. Everything is favoring Buffalo, including the emotion. But be that as it may, stranger things have happened. It would not surprise me if Miami backdoors a number, even possibly hangs around. You just don't know. It's the National Football League. My favorite game of the weekend by far is the Vikings and they're laying 3. All right, Bernie. I haven't been drinking yet this morning. I'm laying 3 to the New York Giants and give it up to Brian Dable. All right, I know the Giants have become this trendy pick. I actually like the Vikings a lot. Couple of things, and I know there's some scary things here, right? The Vikings, their point differential was -1. For a 13-4 team, that's unheard of, right? And they've been out-yarded, and they were out-yarded by the Giants 92 yards 3 weeks ago. But 3 weeks ago, that line was 4.5. Now it's 3. What's changed? So I feel I'm getting value by laying the 3. And I don't think the number is going to come into play. The Giants, believe it or not, or check that, the Vikings, believe it or not, in their last 9 weeks, their rush defense, we know their overall defense is not great, but the rush defense has been excellent, ranking second, having allowed a 90-plus yard rusher in the NFL. So I think you stack the box a little bit, force Daniel Jones to beat you, and he'll try to beat you with his legs as well. But in candy camping, you always look for strengths versus weaknesses. One of the weaknesses the Giants defense has is tight end defense. DVOA ranks 32nd. Well, the Vikings have TJ Hawkinson, and I'm pretty sure that Justin Jefferson's going to command a double team. Look for TJ Hawkinson to have a big day. And I think this Viking offense is for real. And I'm not one of the people who've called them frauds. Okay. What I have said is that they continue to defy the odds by winning 11-0 in 1-score games, et cetera, et cetera. The point differential being out-yarded, but in a one-game affair in the playoffs. And, oh, by the way, you've got a quarterback who's actually played in playoff games versus a quarterback playing in his first ever playoff game. Quarterback starting in their first ever playoff game versus a quarterback who's played in a playoff game that first year rookie, not a rookie, but the first time opportunity quarterback, which would be Daniel Jones, 28% against the spread. So I like the Vikings here to win. I really do, and I think they cover the 3. It's my favorite play of the week. And I know there are all kinds of numbers and trends that maybe make you look the other way. But look, there are fundamental aspects of handicapping. There are situational spots. There are technical aspects. A lot of the technical aspects might favor the Vikings. But in this one-game affair at home, which is not an easy place to play, in perfect conditions for the Vikings, I think the Vikings offense shows up in a big way and they win and cover.
I find it comical because for the last 2 years, the Vikings were the laughing stock because they led the NFL in one possession losses. So now they finally figured it out. Hey, we finally found out how to win in one possession games, and now everyone calls them frauds. And again, I don't get the steam with the Giants. I've been laughing all around. I don't see Phil Simms. I don't see Eli Manning. I don't see Amari Tuma. I don't see any of those guys out there. But by far, the Giants are the biggest public trendy dog all week.
I think Mark Bavaro's going to suit up, though. I'm pretty sure. But to your point, look, you get caught up in the groupthink echo chamber, and I don't think you can be 13-4 in the National Football League and be a fraud. However, I have been objective on my show every week, having to say eventually this is going to catch up when you play a team that handles their business in all 3 phases. Last year, and under Zimmer, they were just cursed. I mean, missing chip shot field goals right on down the line, right? It was a culture thing. Kevin O'Connell changed that culture. They've opened up the offense. They got real weapons, real honest-to-goodness weapons. And again, in this one-game affair, in that matchup against the Giants, here's your value right here. They were 3 weeks ago. Vikes were laying 4.5. Now you're giving me 3. What really changed in the last 3 weeks to give me a free 1.5? And it's a playoff game, similar to what it was. It was a de facto playoff game for the Giants 3 weeks ago. I do think you're going to see a different Vikings team. Now, after this week, I'm not saying I'm going to pick them next week, but this week, it's focus on the here and now. All of my analysis takes me to the Vikings.
Any leans on the Ravens and Bengals?
I lean to the dog, but again, you'd have to really hold your nose. I don't like going against Joe Burrow. And again, it's back to the wild card 16-7. By the way, if you really want the knack of picking a wild card, making money, just pick winners. 88% of the time since 2005, the number does not come into play. The number does not come into play. If you pick the favorite, they win and cover. If you pick the dog, they win outright 88% of the time. So you pick all 6 winners this week, right? It's not the number's most likely not going to matter, but you don't know. They got to play it out. And again, we have totally different situations because we got backup quarterbacks and we got the situation in Buffalo, and I think they're going to feed off DeMar Hamlin right on down the line. So you've really got to treat each game individually.
I'm going to give you the lead in here. Tom Brady, 7-0 against Dallas. Tom Brady 2 years ago, 6-point favorites, home opener against Dallas. They win, they don't cover. This year, Tom Brady in Dallas, 2-point favorite season opener. They win. Everyone
19-3.
Yes, everyone is seeing how bad Dallas has looked the last few weeks. Go back to the Texans game, the Titans game, the Washington game. Not that Tom and the Bucks have looked great, but they're here, they're home, they're dogs. Tom and the six rings. Dallas opens up 3-point favorites. I am a guy that trusts and respects the opening number. With that said, we also see what Dak and McCarthy look like in the playoffs. Interested in your take in this game?
Already played Tampa on the money line last week. The minute the send off line came out, I said I'm not going to waste my time. Look, Cowboys are like the Chargers. This could be the year. This could be the year. Look, if I had a nickel for every time they told me this could be the year, Elon Musk could be mowing my lawn. So the bottom line is this. You got Tom Brady over here and the Cowboys and Dak over here. Tom Brady, since 2001, has 35 playoff wins. The entire Cowboys franchise, 3. That doesn't tell you something. I don't trust Dak. I never did. I put Dak in the same category as Derek Carr and to a degree Kirk Cousins. They're great when it doesn't matter. This year, Dak hasn't been great when it doesn't matter. 15 interceptions in the last 12 games. There's nothing that could make me play Dallas this week. I like Tampa Bay. I get it. They're 8-9. It's a whole new season. This is where Tom Brady lives, and I think this is a fairly wide open tournament, right? Chalk tells you it's going to probably be Philadelphia and Kansas City, or maybe Philadelphia and Buffalo, but chalk usually doesn't rule. The bottom line is, can an 8-9 team beat a team that's 13 or 12-5? Well, look what Beast Mode did in Seattle back in 2010, right? When a much better Drew Brees New Orleans team came in and Seattle pushed them around the field. They were 7-9 that year. The playoffs are a different animal. Tom Brady and this Tampa Bay team is getting healthier, and they're far better than people realize. They just haven't played well. They haven't meshed under Todd Bowles. That's just a fact, all right? But Dallas, they're already talking about, will Jerry fire Mike McCarthy if they lose? Why would that be in your narrative? You're getting ready to go into a playoff game. You're 12-5 back-to-back years, and that's your narrative? And at the end of the day, I look at the quarterbacks, and Dak versus Brady. Give me Brady all day long, and I could give you a bunch of numbers to back it up. But the Tampa Bay Bucks are my second favorite play.
I know we only have a couple minutes. I can't thank you enough. I have to throw this name out to you. We had so much talk, so much text all last year. You were spot on. If I asked you, does Trevor Bauer pitch this year?
Oh, yeah.
If so, do you know who might be interested?
Well, he can sign with anybody. The Dodgers just wrote him a $22 million check to go away. It's a very tough question to answer. Do you want to be the organization that hitches your wagon to him, even though he's a phenomenal pitcher? None of us truly really know the story. This is a country of second chances, but this is a highly sensitive situation. If you ask me now, I say it's a 75% chance he doesn't pitch again. Ask me again in June, things might change. I mean, look, Deshaun Watson's back, got the highest contract of all time. And I know it's a bit of an apples and oranges situation, right? We don't really know what went on with Bauer. Bauer has been his own worst enemy. I'll answer it this way. Today, on January 13th, I will say it's a 75% chance Bauer does not pitch this year. That could change. See me in June, and depends on the narrative and the PR aspects of it, and all the things that go along with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy for any of the teams. As you said, the Dodgers cut him a $22 million check. Anyone could say, well, come on board for the league minimum, $700,000. He's made $22.7 for the year.
Yeah, $720, yeah. Yep.
So the actual PR hit is absolutely huge. Bernie, the crawl has been going the whole time. Obviously, on Twitter, everyone can follow you at Bernie Fratto, and on Fox Sports Radio, of course. Please tell them where they can hear you tonight and tomorrow night.
Thank you, Jeff. So I'm with Fox Sports Radio. I have 2 shows every week. I have Friday night at 11 p.m. Pacific to 2 a.m., so 2 a.m. Eastern to 5 a.m. Saturday night, I sign on at 11 p.m. Pacific to 3 a.m., so that'd be 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. Eastern, Saturday nights, the Bernie Fratto Show. And unfortunately, I'm going to do a lot of fill-in stuff for Sunday football with Dan Byer. I've done the Ben Maller Show many times. And so the bottom line is, fortunately, I'm getting a lot of airtime at Fox Sports Radio. And the nice thing about my shows Friday and Saturday night, while they do disrupt the sleep pattern, fortunately, I'm syndicated on about 600 stations and Sirius XM Channel 83. So heard by about 1 million people. And the beauty of that time is, there's no Pittsburgh Pirate game going on at 2 a.m. So you're cleared just about everywhere.
I'm one of those guys on
Thank
Sirius.
you. And you've been on my show. Yeah.
I've been on your show a couple times, blessed and honored. I'm always available. You can call me the East Coast Assassin, whatever you need, some quick info from the East Coast. I'm just a pot of coffee away, Bernie.
Final thought, if you run into your buddy Tom Brady, and I haven't talked to him since 1999 when I was at WTK in Ann Arbor and I'm covering the Michigan Wolverines, tell him don't come to Las Vegas. This is an organization that's so dysfunctional. They look like a drunk trying to cross an icy street. There's no defense just because they say they're going to rebuild it. The offensive line has major issues. They're not ready to win. They're not. And if he comes here, would I like to see it? Sure, from a fan standpoint. But he won't win here.
I'll make sure I reach out to his buddy, see if we could figure out where it goes. It makes too much sense. The reuniting of Josh McDaniel, yada, yada, yada. He will play next year. He won't be in Tampa, but we don't know
I think
where
he's going to play. I honestly think he's going to play 2 or 3 more years. His velocity, he gets the ball out of his hand. Look, and he may be 45 chronologically, turning 46 on August 3rd. He's throwing the ball as well now, or if not better, than he was 12 years ago. His mechanics are precise. They're pristine. He gets the ball out of his hand. He's terrific. And you watch him and Mike Evans have a big day Monday night against Dallas.
I can't wait. The legend, Mr. Bernie Fratto, at Bernie Fratto at Fox Sports Radio. Make sure you A, follow him, B, listen to him Friday and Saturday night or back east in the early mornings on Sirius Radio. Thank you so much, Bernie. And we will catch up real soon.
All right, buddy.